Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad and our live launch coverage of NASA SpaceX Crew 8 preparing to launch from Launch Complex 39A at NASA Kennedy Space Center in Florida. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the launch pad, and you're looking at a live view inside the NASA Kennedy Space Center White Room, where Crew 8 is in the middle of their final pre-flight checks in their suit inside the White Room in preparation for their rollout to the launch complex. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. Here at the launch pad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you joining us live here. If you haven't yet, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Also take a moment and engage that like button. Share out the stream, invite people to join us. We are now just under 4 hours and counting until Crew Dragon Endeavour launches aboard a Falcon 9 rocket, a brand new Falcon 9 booster going for its flight here today, and we're glad to have you here. We're going to listen in to NASA and their live commentary throughout the day, but I'll be popping in answering your guys' comments and questions. You can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and I'll work on answering those live to the best of my ability and our crew's ability. I want to give a big shout out to our entire TLP crew. We've got our TLP rocket chasers out across the field tonight preparing to capture today's flight, so make sure you stay tuned for those photos and videos via social media. And to our TLP moderator team who are in Discord with me, I know we've got Cap, we've got Signy, we've got Lewis, and we've got Amy on board ready to help keep that chat a great place for all of us to come together and watch today's flight. But we are T-minus 3 hours, 58 minutes, 20 seconds and counting till the launch of NASA SpaceX Crew 8. Stay with us right here on the launch pad as we continue to count down to launch.
Co-hosting our Crew 6 launch broadcast. And also, speaking of anniversaries, it's also 5 years to the day since Demo 1 launched, which was the first uncrewed test flight of SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. And now here we are with Crew 8, Raja.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There's a saying, I don't know who to attribute to, but things seem impossible until they're common. And here we are, like you said, 5 years later, from what seemed impossible with Demo 1, returning U.S. astronauts from a U.S. launch vehicle on U.S. soil, and now we're on the 5th flight of this vehicle, and Crew 8, it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, 5th flight of Dragon Endeavour, which when we get a shot of the launch pad, we will show you that spacecraft there, the flight leader so far. There it is, actually. We have it pulled up on the screen for you. We are looking at a brand new Falcon 9 booster on launch pad 39A here at Kennedy Space Center. And at the very tippy top there, we have Dragon Endeavour.
And it's a beautiful night, beautiful view here at the Cape. It's always great to come down here, even when you're battling mosquitoes, to get to see the launch in person.
We are fighting some mosquitoes out here on the hostess. You'll notice actually that this is audio-only commentary right now, but we will expand our coverage later, where we will introduce other commentators at NASA and at SpaceX, and we will also come on camera to join you for that last hour before liftoff.
Saw the visors just go down there, so they're checking the suit seals now. You can actually see the view there. You can see Alexander's hands extended there as the suit pressurizes, right? Actually, I think that's Matt's. And you can see how the helmet goes up higher as it pressurizes, and it looks like they're shrinking, but it's just the helmet extending as it pressurizes.
Mm-hmm. And right now we've been focusing on these two, Matt and Mike, but just across from them are Jeanette and Alexander.
Exactly, yep. And they basically do them in groups of 2, and they have a set of, this is basically to check all the seals on the suit before they actually head out to the pad. And they do it here. This is the same place they've been suiting up since Follow. Got a quick look for a vat there. Yeah. For the camera. They've been doing this for decades. This is the historic room, and we do it here because it's much better to find a problem with the suit in this room where you have all the equipment than it is to have that problem on the pad, because they will do leak checks on the pad in the rocket as well.
And the seats they're in configured the same way that they're going to be in Dragon, right?
Exactly, yeah. Those are they're basically the same kind of design. You can see Jeanette's even further sucked down there.
Oh, can barely see her, just the eyes.
Right, and in microgravity, it's not a big deal, right? Because if you're pressurizing the suit, you can move around pretty quickly. But in 1G, you kind of slump down as the suit grows around you. But The whole point of it being pressurized is to provide you your own little mini spaceship on the inside if there were any problems with the vehicle.
Yeah, these suits are specifically for when they're inside Dragon, and we're pressure checking these suits again because if something were to happen, this needs to sustain them.
Exactly, yeah. We call them IV or in-vehicle suits as opposed to EVA suits, which are when people talk about spacewalks, those are different types of suits. But you're exactly right, Megan. These are the ones that basically provide the crew both cooling, protection, oxygen, air while they're in the vehicle.
Countdown 1 with the delayed T-minus 4-hour situational awareness briefing. We're currently counting down to a T0 of 04:16:13 UTC or 23:16:13 local with an instantaneous window. The crew have started suit donning and leak checks in preparation for ingress activities. The advanced team is currently on the way to the pad to open the side hatch and prepare for crew arrival. Vehicle gases are off, FTS checkouts are complete, and Dragon prop tanks are pressed. Falcon 9 is not working any issues at this time. The team is evaluating elevated ascent weather criteria and will make the final determination no later than L-1 hour. Launch weather will be closely monitored with a POV now adjusted to 40%. Falcon 9 launch and recovery weather is not tracking other constraints this time. In the event of a scrub, the next available launch opportunity will be March 3rd. Procedure 52.91 is open in the event of a crew contingency through crew ingress and launch. As a reminder, the launch escape system will be armed prior to propellant load today. Hangar X will go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and last until spacecraft separation or until after the LES is disarmed and all personnel are requested to stay in their locations until lockdown is complete. CE, do you have a report on Falcon 9 health?
Falcon 9 is tracking one issue on a TBC air brake that failed checkouts for MVAC, but we are working the issue and are go to proceed.
Copy all, CE. MD, do you have a report on Dragon health?
Dragon is healthy at this time. As mentioned, we have some rationale we're putting together for a watch item for an MD call LCC, but no concern at this time.
Copy all. And this will conclude the T-minus 4-hour situational awareness briefing, unless there are any other questions.
All right, so as you just heard over our mission audio loops, that was the T-minus 4-hour situational briefing. You'll notice that we paused for that briefing just so we can give you guys some insight into how the count is going, and so far working no issues. The launch time has adjusted, though, by 1 second, so 11:16 and 13 seconds Eastern time. And Raja, we heard working no issues.
Yep, yeah, you heard them say the Dragon prop tanks are pressurized, so that's the tanks inside the vehicle as opposed to the F9 tanks, which they'll do later when they're on the pad, when they actually start propellant loading. And yeah, as you heard about 40% probability violation for launch, which is what they're obviously the biggest thing we're tracking this evening for the window. You see they're unstrapped and up out of the seats, which means it looks like the leak check's passed. So now they basically will start getting ready to head out. They're going to button up the suits there. There's some Velcro attach points that basically just make it a little more comfortable. So now that they're done kind of in and out of them. You can see we call them the ninjas. So you got the iPad there. So all these procedures are basically going step by step, and then each group of 2 has a suit team working with them that's kind of running through the procedures and making sure that everything is good to go.
Right.
And they're on the umbilicals now, so Alexander's holding that cooling unit, so that's what's providing them cooling right now. The little mobile unit until they get into the spacecraft.
Yeah, we have Alexander. Oh, no, actually now we have a
Jeanette.
shot of Jeanette there. Again, as you said, adjusting those Velcros. And I do want to very quickly say 40% go.
Oh, sorry.
60%.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep. No
Thanks.
problem. No problem. That was a quick brief. A lot to absorb. All right, and now we have a shot of Commander Matt Dominic. And let's tell you a little bit more about him now. So Matt was born and raised in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, married to Faith Dominic, and they have 2 daughters. Matt earned a Master of Science degree in Systems Engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School, and he was designated as a Naval Aviator in 2007. He made 2 deployments to the North Arabian Sea, flying close air support missions in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He has more than 1,600 hours of flight time in 28 different aircraft, 400 carrier-arrested landings, and 61 combat missions. This will be his first spaceflight, Raja.
Yes, indeed, and probably most importantly, that's not in that bio, is Matt's also one of the 2017 class turtles, so he will keep our tradition of having a turtle on the space station going strong. So yeah, Matt and I trained together, and he's a great, just hilarious person. Very humorous, but also completely serious and super competent, and super excited to get to see him head up with Crew 8.
Yeah, of course you would mention that he's a turtle, fellow turtle. It's a very proud class, astronaut class. All right, now we have Dr. Michael Barrett. He's seated right next to Matt right there. He's going to be Crew 8's pilot. Was selected by NASA in 2000. He's the only one of Crew 8 who's been to space before as part of Expedition 1920 in 2009 and STS-133 in 2011. In total, he's spent 212 days in space, and he is board certified in internal and aerospace medicine. He has been awarded numerous times for his contributions to space medicine research, and right now he lives in League City, Texas with his wife Michelle, and they have 5 children. Personal and recreational interests include sailing, boat restoration, writing, and I need to ask you about this, Raja, cooking good food in harsh or remote places. He said austere places.
Yeah, Mike and Michelle are awesome family. Actually, Mike was my family escort when we were down here for our launch and helping out with the families. And he was also my mentor in ASCAN training, and just a great human. As you probably took from that bio, he's a little bit of everything, like does his own boating, cooking in austere conditions. He is known to like to snack and always have food ready to go. And he, I know we overuse the word literally, but he literally wrote the book on space medicine. Actually, there is a book that the actual text that they use to teach spaceflight medicine is edited by him. So he is the preeminent expert, and so he gets used all the time, especially as we talk Artemis programs and development for all the medical considerations as we look forward to exploration spaceflight. And he was heavily involved with the commercial crew for both SpaceX and Boeing and how they developed the medical systems and responses.
Wow, so he's a great person to have on this mission with 3 first-time flyers.
Yeah, if you're going to get a cold, you're going to deal with him on board.
All right, now we see Jeanette Epps here, mission specialist, also again, her first space flight. The Syracuse, New York native was a NASA fellow during graduate school and then worked for Ford Motor Company, where, get this, she received a U.S. patent for her research into auto collisions and countermeasure systems. And then after leaving Ford, she joined the Central Intelligence Agency, 7 years as a technical intelligence officer before becoming an astronaut in 2009. She has a Master of Science and Doctorate of Philosophy in Aerospace Engineering, and she is also a twin.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've gotten to fly with her, not in space, but the T-38 several times, so we've done some training events together. I would tell you what she did before she came to the astronaut corps, but I can't. Because as you heard, she worked for the CIA. So, but it was obviously some cool things. Yeah, excited to see her get to fly. Yeah, this is a really great crew, and it's been really fun to watch them in training. So usually in assigned flow training, they do most of the things together, but every once in a while, people who aren't assigned with them will get to be parts of like sim support or things like that, and it's been fun to have that opportunity with Crew 8.
Yeah, a really accomplished crew, very diverse backgrounds.
Yep.
And finally, we have a shot here. Mission Specialist Alexander Grebenkin, also again, first-time flyer, graduated from the Irkutsk Military Aerospace Engineering Institute in 2002, majoring in the engineering, maintenance, and repair of aircraft radio navigation systems. He then attended the Moscow Technical University of Communications and Informatics, graduating with a degree in radio communications, broadcasting, and television. He was accepted into the Cosmonaut Corps 2018 and will serve as flight engineer while on board the space station.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Alexander is in one of the newer classes of the cosmonauts, so it's great to see the continuing cooperation. We've got Laurel up there on the space station now, who flew up in a Soyuz. Alexander will head up there on the Dragon here this evening. And then, that partnership continues. We've got crews training in Russia and the cosmonauts training here with us to fly on Dragon.
So, Raja, talk us through what's happening here now, because it does seem like all of the pressure checks have happened on their suits, and they're connected to their umbilicals, which are connected to those blue boxes, like we said, providing air.
Yep. Yeah, so right now, there's generally some pad built into the timeline, because had there been a a leak or anything like that, you would have wanted time to fix that and not have to scrub the launch. So right now, since everything went well, you can see they've got some time. The reason they're in the chairs is when you're standing in the suits in 1G, you saw when it was pressurized, the helmet went up, but in 1G, basically the weight of the suit is coming down on you, and it actually puts some pressure on the top of your head, so it can get uncomfortable after a while. And it sort of feels like you're wearing a suit that's too tight, but that's intentional because when it pressurizes, you don't, as you saw, their head sunk down, and if it wasn't tight, you would not be able to see out of the helmet at all. And so that's why they're sitting there, and they stay on the cooling because also it's just, you can imagine wearing, if you dress up for winter clothes, it gets hot if you're staying inside. And so the less exertion they can have and staying on the cooling just kind of keeps their core body temps down, so they don't wind up sweating. The folks you saw standing at the front of the room are kind of a mix of some of those are, there's the astronaut support person, there's the flight med, you saw the deputy chief of the astronaut office, Shannon Walker, in there. So basically several people, all those folks have been in quarantine with the crew while they've been down here at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, let's talk about the astronaut support person. So, as you said, everyone wearing a black ninja suit is a SpaceX employee, except for number 21, because number 21 is NASA astronaut Denise Burnham, and she's serving as the astronaut support person for this mission.
She is, yeah. The
she
acronym
is.
is the ASP. Yep. So Denise is in the new class, the Flies, which are the class will be graduating here in just a few days back at Johnson Space Center. And so typically what the ASP does, they've gone by different names. They're in the shuttle area. They're called Cape Crusaders, but it was a similar role. And basically, they're the, I guess, eyes and ears of the crew, because as you can imagine, when the crew's down here in quarantine, they're going through final rehearsals, sims, kind of events, and the ASP is kind of going, like, tracking vehicle status. She'll go out to the pad with them this evening. Probably the most public thing you'll see her do is help dial the phone numbers for the calls the astronauts make on the launch pad. But there's a whole lot more besides that. That's just what you happen to see on TV. So most of it is, working as there's changes in the schedule, sleep shifting, and coordinating with the rest of the support team. And it's really an opportunity. Like, that person is, like I said, kind of the crew rep when the crew can't be at everything that's going on when they're down here in quarantine.
Yeah. A nice big smile from pilot Mike Barrett there.
Yeah, so this is kind of a relaxing time, everything up to this point has been really go, and very, very scripted. So it's nice when things are going well and you actually have a minute or two just to sit and take in the moment. You can see the patches there underneath. The crew 8's added their patch to the suit checkout station there. So on all the stations, they have all the USCV patches that have been checked out in that suit room, and it looks like they're getting ready to head out.
As they get up, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How long do they train together as a crew?
So it's about 18 to 24 months. It kind of just depends on the flow. In a perfect world, it'd be 24 months. Sometimes it just takes a little longer to actually have the crews named and get working together. But you can see some of the shots here. That's the SATA chamber where they actually practice going to vacuum, and you can see Jeanette and Mike are there working and getting actual hands-on practice with Matt. So pretty much it's not just ISS training, what you're seeing here, but you saw them getting the T-38 together, doing the suit training. So all of that is happening as a crew as early and as long as you can.
Yeah, it's so important to obviously go through the training that you need, but also that camaraderie.
Right. And there's so much that happens from training together, just all the nonverbals and just learning how people, operate. See Jeanette was working in the glove box there. Alexander, that's out at Hawthorne at SpaceX training. All that time together, it really means that you can just know what the other person is thinking, where their head's at. Are they task saturated? Do they want help? Do they not want help? And that's kind of the importance of all that training, especially the T-38. You really understand how people function and process information in dynamic environments.
We're now at T-minus 3 hours, 41 minutes until liftoff.
And you can see kind of how they slouch a little bit, and that's, like I said, because of the weight on their head. So you sort of like slump your shoulders a little bit to kind of take that discomfort off.
Sure. Seems like they're taking pictures now.
Yep, so probably getting pictures with some of the suit team and the folks that'll help in the closeout crew. So that's Haley, number 34 there. Many of these SpaceX folks are people they have worked with throughout their training flow. We've got the helicopter coming by here to scout out the pad before they drive out this way. But yeah, a lot of these people, the reason they're taking some photos is this is the training team they've worked with. You mentioned how long for, some of these people they've been working with for the last 2 years.
Obviously, Raja knows a lot. That's why we have him here with us today. So we want to invite those who are watching to participate in this broadcast. If you'd like to ask Raja a question over the next 4.5 hours, just jump on X, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch and send your question using the hashtag AskNASA. Challenge him, guys. Let's see how much he really knows. And we look forward to hearing from you.
The khaki
answering.
coat, that's Norm Knight, who's the head of the Flight Operations Directorate. You can see Shannon Walker in the blue suit there is the Deputy Chief of the Astronaut Office.
And they're gathering around a table now because they're about to do a tradition that they do before they can leave crew quarters. Talk to us about what's happening here.
Yeah, so it's a long-standing tradition. There's many traditions in space flight and aviation culture, this being one of them, but basically playing a card game prior to going out to launch with the chief of the office.
And the reason they do this is because, as you can see, it's Shannon playing the crew right now, and the commander has to lose so that way the team gets their bad luck out of the way and can move on with good luck throughout the launch, right?
Exactly, yep.
High five. So it seems like
so
Matt...
well.
I think Matt lost. And this card game, do we know what card game they were playing?
I don't. It can change from crew to crew. It's kind of based on the crew and the chief of the office. You see they're starting to clear out there. They're going to go prep for the walk down. This is also an opportunity. They've, for any last minute updates that the chief has, if there was anything off nominal, that's also the opportunity to be able to talk through that.
And we do want to thank the crew and the team for letting us show this tradition, this moment of levity before their flight, which, as we know, space flight is risky. It's hard. So just to let us into these moments that you guys built in to sort of celebrate the moment and this opportunity.
I think the bigger piece of the tradition is the fact that the chief of the office is there. So that is no small task. So I mentioned Norm and Shannon being in there. They've had to be in quarantine this whole time. And you can imagine in their roles, as we'll talk about later, there's not just this launch. I mean, this is what's happening tonight, but both those people are managing a whole lot of other space ops. And so it is a significant time commitment, but that's the importance of human space flight. And so that, I think, is the bigger part of this tradition, is the chief, the leadership, all being in quarantine with the crew. And you're absolutely right. It can be stressful, but it's also a good time, if everything's going fine, to enjoy some out to drive.
Outside of the historic New York check-in building here at Kennedy. Crew quarters is inside of this building. You walk out the door, you see to the far upper left-hand there. Around T-minus 3 hours and 20 minutes, and then they will make their way to this caravan of Teslas here. There were 3 Teslas that we saw, Raja. Teslas 2 and 3. We're laughing because now we're getting to see
so the reveal of how they're going to work the number into the license plate, which I didn't even know was a thing until Darren told me on the Crew 3, or when I came out here for Crew 6 launch, and I had to go back and look at the Crew 3 license plate. But yes, so the tradition is they work in the crew number into the license plate.
Yeah, yay space. And we have the 8 hidden in there, as you said again, Raja. Before, I remember 5 was the what do you
I have to go at 5. I didn't know it was one, and last time they told me that, I never didn't even pay attention to out of the car.
I do remember Crew 6 too. Crew 6 was Dragon and it's the G6. So as we were saying, there are 3 Teslas here. Second and third one. Second will have commander and the pilot, and the third Tesla will have mission specialists. Outside here, Raja, I can hear you. You're Googling.
I am. I'm a bear.
I see that there are folks that are waiting behind stanchions. Let's tell folks who those are.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a mix of, as you mentioned, kind of outside here, you saw the flight people who came out the door there earlier, and they're going to be following them. And then their last chance, if they have cases, any med, anything like that, that's what's happening now before they walk. People down here are a mix of family who've been in quarantine with them, so generally immediate family, and then sometimes there'll be extended family who weren't quarantined quarantine behind the stanchions. So the people who were in quarantine will be able to go right up to them behind the yellow lines, and then they'll go up to the cars once they're in the cars to basically say goodbye and good luck, and then go down there to complete some NASA leadership. And I don't know if we'll be able to see on the camera or not, but that's the other people that you'll generally see down there. Kind of the importance of all the leadership being able to come out and support the efforts.
Yeah. And let's look at the clock. Minus 3 hours and 35 minutes. A very well choreographed timeline that the astronauts are sticking to right now. As Raja was saying before, a lot of pad is built in, so that's why you were seeing some moments there where they had time to take pictures with their support staff. And right now they are waiting for a specific moment to walk out of the suit-up room, and that will be at T-minus 3 hours and 24 minutes, so about 10 minutes from now. And then they'll walk out of the doors again to the waiting Teslas, as well as family and friends who are there to see them before their launch off of this pad that we're getting a beautiful aerial of.
It might be the helicopter that just flew by.
Again, a new Falcon 9 booster with Dragon Endeavour.
So there's like I said, lots of traditions in spaceflight and aviation, and you can kind of see around the door frame the stickers up there. So below there's the big banner, and then below that you can see those stickers. And so that's the other tradition is that's what they're showing right now. So you can see all the crews that have walked through those doors that have put their stickers on there. So somewhere along that door frame is Crew 8's.
Yeah, specific to crew quarters and walking out the same hallway we're going to see out these same doors. This has been happening since Apollo 7 in 1968. So really steeped in history what these folks are about to do.
Yep. Yeah, this is it's a cool mix of history and new. I would think going from the same suit-up room that Apollo used and then going to ride in the Tesla, it's a very cool contrast. But the tradition is there, and you can see Crew 8's at the bottom right, just underneath Crew 7's. And so as you go up the very top of the screen, you can see ours, Crew 3. So just going down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice little line. Looks like we got 2 more left, and then we're gonna have to skip around that little handrail and keep going down.
Isn't that a good problem to have, though? While we wait for, again, that hallway walk, let's kind of recap how the crew has spent their day so far. So they woke up at 11 a.m. Eastern time. They had breakfast, which is more like lunch. But again, when you're trying to keep to a particular schedule, you do have to shift things sometimes, right, Raja?
Yep.
So breakfast followed by a workout, and of course they had some family time. At around 4:30 p.m. Eastern, they ate another meal, then had medical checks and other flight day preps, and then finally they were briefed on the weather for launch just before starting to suit up. And as you said before, Raja, weather is what we're really watching today. 40% go, watching both weather at the launch site here, but also the ascent corridor.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned the sleep shifting. So actually, one interesting thing inside crew quarters there's all the rooms have multiple sets of light switches because you can actually change the lighting to either simulate it's either really bright if it's in the middle of the night, or do the opposite. It is pretty common to be doing some amount of sleep shifting, and it's not just shifting for the launch, which would be part of the consideration, but the other consideration is when you show up to the space station, they are on a time zone. They're on Zulu time, which is 6 hours ahead of Central Time, 5 hours ahead of here. So there's this balance, and that's one of the things the flight docs are trying to figure out, especially when there's changes to the schedule, or like what's the optimum way to be most awake for all the dynamic events. And it's a blend of, obviously for the launch you want to be very awake, for the docking you want to be very awake, and then you want to be able to integrate into the space station as quickly as you can. So it's kind of a blend of all those considerations. And it has to do, it's not always the same answer for every mission, because each launch is a little different with the orbital phasing and how they do the rendezvous with the space station, or the timing for that. So it always varies just a little bit.
And the crew has been living in crew quarters now for about 2 weeks.
Right, yep. So they go into a soft quarantine back in Houston, and then a hard quarantine in Houston. So the soft is basically starting to withdraw in personal contact, and then the hard is, as you would imagine, full up quarantine. The families who you'll see come up to them here shortly, those people were in quarantine with them, as well as folks out the hand out a little bit more. You can see some of the crew down there. So the other people in the blue flight suits, you can see Jessica Watkins, I think it's Steve, maybe I can't tell in the dark, Jess Whitner and the flies. So they are the family escorts. So they're the people, they've also been in quarantine, and then they're helping with them. You can see the Administrator Nelson there is facing us.
Yep.
With bumping his fist there, talking to the families.
Big smile.
Yeah, so the immediate families are in the foreground of the shot, and then you can see the NASA administrator, Jim Free, who's the senior civil servant at NASA, deputy administrator, and then deputy administrator Pam Melroy. You can kind of just see her head to the right of Administrator Nelson.
Now let's take a social question. They're coming in. Yeah.
Let's see if we've got any ones that's me.
We have Santa Lynn on Instagram asking, do astronauts get to choose what their ultimate meal is on Earth before they go to the ISS? And I didn't say final.
I know, yeah.
because
So yeah, so we called your final. It's definitely not your final meal. It's called your ultimate meal, and yeah, you do get to choose that. It works in crew quarters because you're in quarantine. You can't actually, you can't go to the grocery store and get your own food. So there's a food team that makes your food, and it also has to be checked and sanitized because you also don't want any foodborne pathogens or diseases. After we've taken all this time and gotten all this far, you don't want to get sick from the food. So they do a really great job of doing that. And then one of the meals, the ultimate meal, each crew member picks what they want, and it can be like things. I don't know where they've got a very wide range of skills across all kinds of cuisine. So anything you can make up, think of, they can make. And then the crew usually when to do that, usually a day or two prior to the flight.
And I did find out what the ultimate meals were. You ready?
Right.
Right. I'm starting with Mike Barrett, and you'll see why soon. But Mike wanted grilled salmon and veggies. Matt said whatever Mike wanted because he trusts his culinary expertise. Then we have Jeanette had butter chicken. And then Alexander said, quote, nothing special, just soup, meat, and veggies, a nice hearty meal.
Very nice. Yeah, as we mentioned, Mike his cooking ability, so not surprised to hear Mike went along with that. He's quite the cooker himself. He's got like a sous vide set up. I didn't even know what that was. Saw him set up.
I think he likes to make burrito tacos or specialty.
Yeah. So you saw the SpaceX folks have come out there. So that's with Kelly, who's helps with the astronaut office, basically the leads kind of this whole effort of fan support and all this choreography. So it's no small task, as you can imagine, trying to figure out quarantine. Not you can see the stanchion there. So you can see this family that weren't in hard quarantine. That's the people who are on the other side of that stanchion. The reason they're still separated because if there's any kind of scrub or anything like that, then the crew will be coming back into quarantine, and it would be so great if the families couldn't see them anymore, just because potentially been contaminated by being around people who weren't in quarantine the whole time. So that's why you have to contain all these different areas. And this is something we've been doing for decades. So it's nothing to do with COVID. This is all pre-COVID protocols to prevent any pathogens, viruses from being on board the station.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking inside a live view inside the NASA Kennedy Space Center, just outside the White Room, where we are awaiting SpaceX Crew 8 to walk down towards those elevator doors, head downstairs, and then come out the historic double doors in preparation to board their special SpaceX Teslas and head out to Launch Complex 39A. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. On the left side of your screen is a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket with Crew Dragon Endeavour loaded up on top and ready for today's flight. We are counting down 3 hours, 26 minutes, 13 seconds and counting till launch. We are watching these live views from NASA Kennedy Space Center where we're awaiting that crew walkout. I know the internet's been a bit choppy. They keep cutting away from this camera and coming back to it. Unfortunately, something to do with this view is just breaking their feed, and that's what's ultimately interfering with the audio from the studio. That's all on NASA's end, so unfortunately I can't help with it, but we're fighting through it. That's why we're keeping us on this wide shot, giving you that clean view of 39A as we wait for the crew to head out there. It's about a 20-25 minute journey. We'll be following them along the way. Tonight's Falcon 9 is booster 1083, going for its first flight. We also have, of course, as I said, Crew Dragon Endeavour going for its 5th flight. Crew Dragon Endeavour's serial is C206. It's had a 367-day turnaround. We don't know where it's going to be recovered yet, but Crew Dragon Endeavour supported Crew 6, AX1, Crew 2, and Demo 2. So it's great to see Endeavour flying here again today. As always, if you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. We'll work on answering those live to the best of our abilities. Shout out to Gallium for your Go Crew 8 $2 super chat. Thank you so much for your support there. Really do appreciate it. And to Norman, thanks so much for your super chat earlier and your great question there. The suits have been qualified for the emergency depressurization of flight. So the suits that the crew are wearing are not for spacewalks. SpaceX is working on a suit for that. That suit will be debuted on the Polaris Dawn mission later this year, and that suit they will wear for launch and return, as well as for when they depress Crew Dragon for the first ever time in space and conduct a spacewalk. It'll also be the first spacewalk conducted from a vehicle other than shuttle and ISS since the very beginning of the U.S. space program. So we're super excited to see our friend Jared Isaacman heading back up later this year, and of course we're following along with that mission. And we'll bring you full live coverage of that. Some great views coming in from Launch Complex 39A. We're continuing to monitor the weather as we do have a 60% chance of violation. Many different weather criteria, and we'll dive into those a little bit later. You can keep sending in your questions in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live. SpaceX is targeting an instantaneous launch window here today of 11:16 p.m. Eastern Time. While we've been live, they did adjust the launch countdown by 1 second. This is as they sync the clocks and the computers with the International Space Station. This is a crew launch to station, which means for Dragon to be able to rendezvous with it, we do have to launch in an instantaneous window. If for any reason they fall too far out of the schedule here tonight, we'll hear that dreaded S word, but then they will have another opportunity in 24 hours' time. Of course, we'll be watching the weather. SpaceX likely trying to thread the weather here tonight as they get ready for today's crew flight. But some history today, as the clock will tick over while Dragon is in flight. 5 years ago, we had the first flight of Crew Dragon on that Demo 1 mission. Last year we had a crew flight today as well, so it's a day of flights for Crew Dragon. We're glad to see another one here out on the pad. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. We'll be bringing you full live coverage. We're waiting for that crew walkout. So we are now just 3 hours, 22 minutes, 42 seconds and counting till launch. Also, it's a launch day. You can head on over to our brand new TLP shop. The link is pinned in the chat there. We'll drop it in the chat as well for you. We just launched an entirely new store. We're super excited about it. Take a moment and check it out. You don't even need a promo code anymore for launch days. For it, we're doing a little bit different, but today, SpaceX Crew 8 promo, we have a flash sale going on. You can get 15% off of absolutely everything on the store. You don't even need a promo code. Just head to checkout and it will be automatically applied. Global shipping's available, and it's a great way to get your hands on one of our TLP Rocket Chasers. Absolutely amazing prints. We've got them in metal, but we also have them in poster and canvas if you're looking for something a little bit more budget friendly. And we do have some Crew 8 gear as well, so definitely get your hands on that. That will only be available while the Crew 8 mission is underway. After that, it will disappear, so check that out. We're also looking at expanding the TLP crew. If you're interested in applying to be part of our crew and work with our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe space is better together, you can definitely do so by applying online. We have that application in the chat as well. We're continuing to watch as we count down to launch of Crew 8 here this morning, and we have just had confirmation that we have scrubbed for tonight's launch attempt. We will be taking that countdown clock off the screen and listening back into NASA
Depends on where along the
to
point.
see if we can have
So what happens now?
confirmation here. But we have had a scrub. SpaceX says, standing down from tonight's launch of Crew 8 due to elevated winds in the Dragon ascent corridor. They are now targeting Sunday, March 3rd for liftoff. That is confirmed by SpaceX. Crew 8 scrub. The crew will not walk out to the Teslas, and they are now beginning to doff their suits. They are now exiting the suits as we continue through today's flight. But if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We're continuing to monitor the situation, but SpaceX has called for a scrub here this evening due to elevated winds in the Dragon ascent corridor.
The rendezvous timeline is for this new window. But like I said, it's always different depending on the orbital phasing. So they'll pretty quickly here, if they haven't, my guess is they probably already do have already have thought through all this, or the flight docs have. They'll kind of build a schedule like, oh, now that you're launching 23 hours later, this is your rendezvous timeline, and we need to sleep shift you, 2 hours right or left or whatever it is. And so that's probably the other thing that's happening, is figuring out, okay, you need to go to bed right now, or no, we need to stay up for a few hours and then go to bed, and going through that kind of drill. But because they didn't come out to the pad, it's much, it is actually a lot easier on the crew. They're going to have the opportunity to get a lot more rest than they would otherwise, because if they'd come all the way out to the pad, got strapped in, basically everything you do, you have to undo. So this is, at least for their timeline and their prep for tomorrow, probably a good scenario for them.
This is a live view of inside the White Room, which is at the end of the crew access arm and their way into the Dragon spacecraft. Teams here are obviously doing things to secure and as you were saying, like really prep for tomorrow again, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and the other thing, it's not just the people that the Endeavor's taking up there, it's also cargo, and part of that cargo is what's called powered cargo, and so some of the highest end science that's going to and from the space station goes on Dragon vehicles, because you can come back down, and then you can get further analysis on the ground. But what that means is that once you get closer to launch, that power comes from internal power of the vehicle. It goes on to what we call Dragon's powering it, or the vehicle's powering it. But to keep it here overnight, it's going to go back on to umbilical power. So the pad and the ground support equipment will supply that. And in some cases, depending on what it is, I mean, there might be, if you can imagine, if there's like human research type stuff, or like tissue sample, that kind of stuff, you might actually offload it and then put it back on. And so again, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening beyond just what the crew is doing.
And we were talking about sleep shifting and all that stuff. It doesn't just apply to the astronauts, it applies to this crew as well.
Right. The flight control team, both in Houston, here at KSC, and at Hawthorne, everyone's going to basically shift to whatever to be ready for the next window.
The good thing is that, as you said, family has remained in quarantine, so our astronauts will get some more family time before they...
Yep. Yeah, and like I mentioned, that's the importance of staying in quarantine, because now they can still have that time with their families.
One last shot of Falcon 9 and Dragon Endeavour on launch pad 39A here at Kennedy Space Center.
And I'll throw in Tom Marshburn to the rescue. Send It was the Crew 3 license plate with the E as a 3.
I was dying to know. Again, one last shot of what will be Crew 8's ride to space, just not tonight. Again, standing down for unfavorable weather.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We're continuing to monitor the situation as SpaceX has called a scrub for today's launch attempt. We're going to bring up a view here of the live weather conditions that we've been monitoring. This was one of the many different reasons they could have had a delay here today. As we said, it was only 60% chance of violation, so only 40% chance of go for launch, which is quite high for a crew launch. But we're looking here, these are the surface level winds down by the Cape. So we'll put a little marker here near the Cape. You can see there 10 knot winds to the southeast. But as I slowly increase this up to 2,500 feet, keep an eye on the directions of these winds as they go, because this is really going to give us an idea. This is at 2,500 feet. Then we bump it up to 5,000 feet. Now we go up to flight level 100, 3,000 meters. You can see those arrows really start turning, and they start getting quite a bit stronger. And we'll just keep bumping up, and you can see there that wind increasing now 36 knots to the southwest, and it just keeps going, and it keeps turning in different directions. 31 knots, and you can see as you follow that ascent corridor up along the eastern seaboard, up towards Canada, and then around, they're going to be going through some very, very strong winds in the ascent corridor. And as we continue up, of course, they're flying all the way through this. It calms down, but it flips the entirely other direction as they get into the higher elevations. So this is definitely one of the reasons they ended calling tonight. They were monitoring multiple parts of the weather. It was green at the launch site, but that ascent corridor is something that they really do have to monitor for one of these flights. SpaceX will be trying again tomorrow. That is now the next available window, a 48-hour turnaround time. That would be 4:16 GMT, so basically the exact same time, but we'll wait for an updated one here, 11:16 p.m. Eastern. But that's going to do it for us here today. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage here on the launch pad. We'll be keeping our countdown to Crew 8 launch tracker running. We'll update that countdown timer here momentarily, and we hope to have you join us back here. You can use that promo code for Crew 8. It's up, it's live, it's ready, so go ahead, use that, and order some Crew 8 gear over on the brand new TLP shop. And join us over on the TLP Discord. It's free to join, and it's where our community hangs out in between launches. We'd love to see you in there. Huge shout out to our TLP Rocket Chaser crews who have been out in the field ready for today's flight. Our TLP moderator team for being in the chat, helping to answer your questions and keep everything family friendly. That's going to do it for me, and on behalf of the entire TLP crew, we will see you next time, because space is better together. Good night.